go in a short time to get there. So I'm going to try to go through in the next 5 minutes the major issues on the debate before us. I want to first start with the so-called compromise that the chairman of the Agricultural Committee and the chairman of the Ways and the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee have worked out. As we've seen during the debate by the number of colloquies, the compromise is a work in process. I've seen it amended and referred and rebutted several times on the majority side. But if you look to my far left on this chart, in the base text of the bill, there is a provision that gives the administrator of the EPA the right at any time to designate any man-made gas as a greenhouse gas subject to the regulations of this bill. As far as I can tell, that paragraph trumps everything that Chairman Peterson has attempted to negotiate with Chairman Waxman. The second thing that I want to point out is the basic math of their allowance system simply doesn't work. The transportation sector today is responsible for 35% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. 35%. They get, if you count the good work that Mr. Dingell did and the good work that Mr. Green did on the majority side in getting allowances for the transportation sector, they get a grand total of 4%. 4%. Well, 4 from 35 is 31%. When you get down to 2050, you have to reduce CO2 emissions by 83%, which only leaves 17% of total emissions from the baseline year. You've got to cut the transportation sector in half. And if you assume that we're not going to develop some sort of a giant rubber band for general aviation, you can't put an electric battery or a nuclear reactor in an airplane. General aviation is going to have to use fossil fuel. You simply can't get to that 83% reduction from the 2005 baseline with the math in their bill. It is a physical impossibility. The third point, the science is not there to back it up. There is an EPA report that has been suppressed, that was never made a part of the record, that we're trying to get as we speak, that raises grave doubts about the endangerment finding. Now, if you don't have an endangerment finding, you don't need this bill. We don't need this bill. And for some reason, the EPA saw fit not to include that in making the decision. We have emails that show that the director of the agency of the cabinet of the sub-cabinet agency within the EPA said the decision has been made. Your report is not helpful. It's not only not helpful, it's harmful. So the science isn't there. Next point, no matter how you cut it, costs are going up. Just basic math in Iowa, the CEO of the utility that provides most of the electricity for Iowa says in Iowa alone, costs are going to go up $110 a month per residential customer. That's $1,200 a year. Gasoline prices are going to go up somewhere between 40 to 70 cents a gallon. If you take a midpoint of, say, 50 cents a gallon and assume that the husband and wife work outside the home, they each drive 1,000 miles a month, you're going to have a gasoline price increase per family in America of about $800. That is $2,000 a year per family in 2012. It's not a postage stamp. Now, there are estimates as high as $6,000 a year, but as a baseline, let's start with $2,000. That's in the first year and every year thereafter. If you look at this chart here on unemployment, if it goes below the bar, that's a negative. 2015, 2.3 million jobs. 2025, 2.7 million. Go on down the road. It averages over 2 million jobs every year. Now, you talk about a green job revolution. In Spain, they've been trying to do that, Madam Speaker. And in Spain, for every green job they've created, they've lost 2 conventional jobs. And the green jobs they've created in Spain have cost about $1.2 million per job created in terms of government subsidies. That's not a revolution that I want to be part of, Madam Speaker. I cannot express enough to get to 83% baseline reduction in CO2 by the year 2050, which doesn't change in this bill. You have to reduce the emissions in the United States to the level that we had in 1910. And if you want to look at it on a per capita basis, assuming the population is going to average about 1% growth a year, it takes us back to 1875. This is a bad bill. It deserves to be defeated. Please vote no. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from